Hi there, my name is Max Chadwick and I'm a cinematographer from BC, Canada. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about my most recent purchase here, which is the Zcam E2-S6 from Zcam. Zcam's a brand that I hadn't heard of until about maybe 6 months ago, and I started to do a little bit of research on them, and I found that, they're a relatively new company in the cinematography world, and they're really starting to make a splash. Zcam's flagship lineup is comprised of the E2-S6, which I have here, the E2-F6, and the E2-F8. The F8 being an 8K sensor as opposed to a 6K full-frame sensor. This is the Super 35 version of the 6K sensor. The Zcam E2-S6 is kind of the middle-of-the-road professional entry-level cinema camera. And this one here features a 6K CMOS 35mm sensor. The E2-S6 and other cameras in the same lineup have quite a few options for codecs and frame rates. So, when you're open gate with this camera, you're at 6K at 30 FPS, or 6244 by 416. I don't know what that's called, but that's a lot of resolution. You have, 6K DCI, 6K 241, which you have higher frame rates in that cropped mode, which I haven't had the opportunity to use yet. You have 6K UHD, 5K 4x3, 5K 6x5, 4K DCI, and a low noise option. 4K UHD, 4K 241 with faster frame rates. And you can shoot 120 frames per second at 2K, which I was doing, which is really awesome to see. And everything that I was shooting was in ProRes 422, which is a codec that I've come to love, and it makes my life a lot easier in the edit suite. One thing I really liked about this camera system and the whole E2 flagship lineup in general is that it is such a powerful camera in such a small modular body. It shows up in the package and it's just this little cube here, which could fit in the palm of your hand. In this price range, there's not a whole lot that offers the same value as you're getting here with the Zcam lineup. When I was browsing cameras, some of the cameras I was looking at are like the Blackmagic Pocket 6K, or the Red Komodo, or the Canon C70. They all kind of hover in this mid-range price, and camera technology these days is giving you so much value for the money that you're spending. The reason I was drawn towards the Zcam E2-S6 was that, the price was right. I was getting a 6K sensor, I'm getting all these variable frame rates, high-speed frame rates. I get the modular body to rig it out, the way that I want it, which I think is one of the best selling points of this camera lineup, is the fact that it's modular, so you can build it out exactly how you want it. Whether you want it to be a small live streaming camera that just sits on a tripod, you can just use the brain for that, or you can turn it into a run and gun, compact cinema setup with your microphone on it, your Teradek, you're streaming wirelessly to a monitor. You have your follow focus, pretty much everything you need. You can put ND filters on it, really make it like a versatile run and gun setup. I built my rig out in a way that I could use it for run and gun setups, as well as in a more traditional studio setting or on a short film, or pretty much in any scenario that you could dream of. Besides the practical uses of rigging it out this way, I also just kind of like the way it looks, because if someone sees you bring this onto a set, it's fully rigged out with a map box, rails, female battery, monitor, follow focus. You have all the accessories. Like they kind of have to take you more seriously because they see this big camera as opposed to a little cube or a little DSLR or mirrorless camera. For that middle range price range, I could have opted for spending a little bit more and getting a Komodo or a C70, but I had to kind of evaluate exactly what my needs were and whether it was practical to spend that extra $2,000, $3,000 to fully kit out the Komodo or C70. Well, C70 actually doesn't need to be kitted out that much, but the Komodo for sure. I knew that the Zcam lineup, and the E2-S6 in particular, had a plethora of accessories that were cheap, sturdy, well built, and they allowed for a lot of customizations. I don't want to go too in depth about the rig that I have right now. Maybe I will make a video of that in the future if that's something that interests people. Right out of the box, I immediately noticed just how heavy and durable the body was. I don't know exactly what I was expecting. I thought that from some of the photos and videos that I saw, it fits in the palm of your hand. I thought it would just naturally be a lighter camera, but no, right away, as I picked it up, you just feel the heft of it in the weight. It feels extremely durable, it feels sturdy, and it feels like something that I won't really necessarily have to worry about when I'm out in the field, when I'm doing run and gun situations. I don't have to worry about mishandling the camera, messing up any of the internal components, because it is built like a tank. The body itself is made out of a very durable aluminum alloy material, and all of the buttons on the exterior of the camera are all made of rubber. They have a very nice tactile feel to them. They don't feel like a cheap plastic or a material that's going to break easily or get dirty easily. Overall, I'm really satisfied with the build quality of the camera. Now I want to talk about some of the issues that I had with the camera. Most of these issues actually you can solve by just adding accessories or by setting your camera up slightly different than the way I did. I opted for the small rig wooden side handle instead of the revolver clutch side handle, which a lot of people choose to go with. Basically, this was the cheaper option, and I didn't think that I would really miss having controls on my side handle. Looking back now, I kind of wish I did go with the revolver handle, as it can be a little clunky trying to switch between your aperture or maybe your variable frame rates when you're on a run-and-gun situation. The way I like to shoot is I have the top handle and then I'm pulling focus on the lens with my left hand. And when I wanted to change the aperture, I would have to switch hands, grab the handle with my left hand, and then kind of hover it close to me and then awkwardly change in the settings. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, as I made it work, but having that side handle and just being able to spin a dial, change my aperture, that would have made life so much easier. So if I was to look back, I definitely would have gone with the other handle. Another possible solution to some of the menu control clunkiness is going with a monitor that you can control the camera through. I opted for the FeelWorld LUT 6 because I was on a bit of a budget, and I actually canceled my pre-order of the Ninja 5, and I don't know why I did that. Having camera control in your monitor is another intuitive way that you can control your camera all in one place. You also have the option of using your phone as a controllable monitor, and I only played around with it a little bit right before filming this video because, as I said, I've only had the camera for about a week now, and so I haven't had a lot of opportunity to play around with everything. This is just more of a first impressions. But what I've seen of the phone app, it's really intuitive to use, like it's snappy. I thought that there would be a little bit of latency, but it's really not noticeable, even compared to my monitor, which is going through HDMI. There's very low latency connection between the phone and the camera when using the Wi-Fi. I think one of my biggest problems so far of using the camera has actually been not knowing how to operate it. The instruction manual that it comes with doesn't have a lot of information, which most camera brands these days don't have all in-depth instructions. I would often run into moments where I'm shooting and I'm thinking to myself like, oh man, how do I do this or do that? And then I would have to Google it, go on my phone and try to find something. But since it's a newer company, there's not a lot of information out there about this camera as opposed to other well-known brands such as Canon, Panasonic, Blackmagic, where there's a lot more stuff online. One of the hidden features of buying this camera is actually something that they don't advertise, and that is the Facebook group for E2 camera users. The Facebook page is a collective of all the people who own these cameras or are interested in these cameras, where they can gather and you can ask questions and you can make suggestions and you can showcase your work to other members to kind of show what you've been doing with the product. And one of the really cool things about this group is that the CEO of the company, Kinson Liu, is actually a very active member in the Facebook group, as well as other members of the company. So if you have a problem, you can just go into the Facebook group and type, "How do I do this? I'm confused, there's something wrong." And within a couple of minutes, you'll have someone answer your question and just totally make things a billion times easier. The other day, I finally got the opportunity to go out and test the camera for the first time and play around with it and see how it worked. We took the camera into a variety of situations, going into direct sunlight, going into shaded areas. We did a little bit of low light shooting, and I just really wanted to see how the camera would perform in these various situations. But before I ramble on too long, I'm going to go ahead and start playing some of the footage that I got from the other day. I really enjoyed shooting with the E2-S6, especially when I had it rigged out the way that I want it. I have it fairly well balanced, so when I'm doing handheld, which most of my shooting is, I'm able to stabilize the camera the way that I want it, and especially with the extra weight, you get rid of a lot of those micro jitters that you might have with a mirrorless or something that's lighter. And I found that shooting with the top handle, it really allowed me a lot of control over my framing, following the action, and also keeping those jitters to a minimum. So yeah, overall, I'm really enjoying this camera so far, and I'm really excited to see exactly what I can make with this system. Now, like I said, this isn't going to be the most scientific or detailed description of this camera, but I just wanted to give my opinion because maybe some people care about it, and show those that haven't necessarily heard of this brand or this camera that there are some other options out there. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on this camera. I hope that I was able to give you at least some details about it and maybe answer some questions that you had. A little bit further down the line, I'll probably make a more of a in-depth review and showcase some more footage that I got. And also maybe if anyone's interested, I can break down the rig that I have here, because I think it turned out pretty nicely and it's also very functional. Yeah, just let me know if you want to hear more. But anyways, thanks for watching, and if you want to see some more footage from this camera or possible future videos, then you can just go ahead and subscribe, and I will try and do that.